I had a good time playing Deathloop. Not the 10 out of 10 experience that some people had, but a solid 7 or 8 out of 10. I don't regret paying full price for it, and I'm looking forward to the inevitable sequel. However, the entire time I was playing the game, I couldn't help but wish that one particular thing was handled differently. One change that could have bumped the game from a 7 or 8 to a 9 or even a 10. Before I continue, I should point out the footage used here is sometimes unrelated to what I'm saying. I didn't intend to make a Deathloop video and therefore didn't record my playthrough. This footage is endgame stuff captured after the fact. There aren't any spoilers though, beyond weapons I guess. Before getting on to the negatives, I want to take a moment to highlight some of what Deathloop does well, because there's too much good work here for me to put out a video that focuses only on the negatives. So first, the voice acting is incredible. Jason E. Kelly as Colt puts in such an energetic and forceful performance that within minutes you simply can't imagine anyone else playing the character.
Oh, I haven't told you that one either. Shit, I got a whole bunch of axioms and bullshit to give you. Hello? Hello?
The lines fit his voice so well that I suspect they were written with him in mind. The voice direction also stands out. It doesn't feel like a voice actor strolled into a booth and read lines after being given basic direction like be angry or be sad. When Colt is angry with Juliana because she killed him, or when he starts a new loop after a successful mission, you feel like Kelly himself just experienced those things and happened to have his reaction captured by a conveniently placed microphone. It's so impactful that Colt's emotions sort of rub off on you. If he's angry and wants to go kill some visionaries, you get angry and want to go kill some visionaries. Ozioma Akar as Juliana is great too, but she's nearly always a voice over the radio, which just can't have the same impact as Kelly, who is right in your ear. Deathloop also looks great. I've seen a lot of backhanded compliments about the visuals. Lots of people saying things like, well, it's not realistic, but it's got great style. And yeah, it's stylish as shit. I love the text effect in particular, but Deathloop's slightly cartoonish characters shouldn't detract from some incredible visuals. The environments are wonderfully detailed and the lighting is excellent, especially with ray tracing. Deathloop looks incredible, no caveats required. And of course I did have fun playing the game as well. The gunplay is better than I expected it to be, and I rarely got bored of using Shift, which is basically blink. Nexus, which lets you link enemies together, was another favourite. Watching one headshot take down 5 enemies is so satisfying, as is sneaking up on one enemy for a melee takedown and watching 2 others flip up in the air to mirror it. Deathloop is incredibly easy, more on that later, so you're encouraged to get creative with how you kill people. I'm not a big multiplayer guy and usually turn off features like invasions, but this implementation is good, and hunting Colt as Juliana gives you reason to keep Deathloop installed when you might otherwise be tempted to move on after completing it. There's also something to be said for simply being different. That might sound a bit weird given that Deathloop is the third major time loop game to come out in 6 weeks, but Deathloop undeniably stands apart with its weird mix of immersive sim elements and casual action focus. It's rare I boot up a game and have no idea what to expect or where the game will take me. I got that from Deathloop. Okay, I just said how cool it was to play a game like no other, so of course I'm going to follow that up by saying that Deathloop's biggest problem is that it didn't copy enough from another game. Never underestimate my ability to be a massive hypocrite. Basically, Deathloop should take lessons from the modern Hitman trilogy, specifically the investigation process. Both Deathloop and Hitman task you with taking out a small group of reprehensible human beings by collecting information on them and using that information to make the assassination easier or simply more stylish. In Hitman, you explore the map and stumble upon clues such as a conversation about your target meeting with a model who happens to look like you, or that the family is due to have a photo shoot outside the mansion. You then work with this information to plot a course of action. You probably need the model's outfit for starters, that gets you close to the target, but you'll also need a way to assassinate them without being spotted by security. It is so satisfying to start a mission in a new map that you don't know, equipped with only a piece of fibre wire and a rubber duck, and to end it killing someone during a massage or simply pushing someone into a grape press at a winery. Nothing about this is difficult to execute. The satisfaction comes from putting the pieces together yourself. In Deathloop you also explore a map to find clues, but that's where the comparison ends. Deathloop does all the work for you. I don't love the phrase hand-holding when talking about stuff like this because it's usually used in a really patronising way, but it fits so well here. And Deathloop doesn't hold your hand gently like a lover would as the two of you stroll down a beach at sunset. It grabs your hand and drags you along like a parent dealing with an unruly child. Or maybe like a lover would, but in the sort of situation where you need a safe word. The second you close a journal or hit play on a tape, you're instantly told what the next step is, and where and when you have to be to accomplish it. You stop caring about the content of those emails and notes because what's the point? You can play Hitman like this if you want, but crucially it's optional. There's an opportunity system that puts waypoints on the screen to lead you around. It's great that this mode exists. For one thing, some people simply want to play this way and that's fine. Also, it's a good way for new players to learn their ropes on the first mission or two. However, Hitman lets you turn all the help off, and most Hitman fans recommend you do this. Personally, I find it so much more enjoyable to put the clues together myself instead of just moving from marker to marker. Deathloop never gave me the feeling of satisfaction I got from Hitman because it didn't ask me to do anything beyond follow basic instructions. Some people recommend turning off the waypoint marker, and I agree that helps, but it doesn't solve the problem I'm talking about here. The waypoint marker isn't that egregious anyway, it points you broadly to the building you need to go to, but you likely know where that is already, and if not, the maps are small enough that it's easy to find. My issue isn't about map navigation. It's not about wanting to find Frank's stash of fireworks by the harbour. That's easy, you just go to where the boats are. It's about wanting to figure out for myself that I need to go to Frank's stash of fireworks and that they are by the harbour. Frustratingly, there were a couple of times where the game didn't help much, and those moments showed how good the game could have been. Mainly this was optional content, although killing Alexis required a little more effort on my part too. When I started playing Deathloop, I tweeted about how overwhelming it was to have so much information thrown at me and I didn't know what to do with any of it. I was slightly surprised more people hadn't mentioned it in reviews. Of course, at this point, I still assumed it would be up to me to read all the clues and figure out a plan of approach. I didn't realise the game was going to do it for me. You're not expected to do anything other than select missions and do what you're told. You can finish Deathloop without reading any clues. I'm not surprised Deathloop is this way by default. Immersive sims aren't as popular as I'd like them to be, neither is Hitman, and I don't take issue with developers wanting to reach a broader audience. There's nothing wrong with appealing to the masses or the quote-unquote casuals, another term I hate. To be crystal clear, I'm not arguing for the existing approach to be removed, and I think it should be the default way to play. I just want the option to turn it off, and I'm surprised I couldn't because frankly I don't think it would be that difficult to implement. The method of organising clues would need to be improved because it's currently a mess, but the Outer Wilds managed it, so I'm sure Deathloop could too. Dealing with the final loop could be tricky, I guess. There would need to be a way for the game to know that the player has the knowledge to take on the final run. Otherwise, players might think they have the solution and get frustrated trying to pull it off. However, this could be solved by just highlighting the correct solution in the menu once the player has done it the right way. So if you figure out how the game wants you to kill Frank, the game reveals that method as part of the final loop. I don't mind having instructions laid out for the final loop because you've done the hard work by that point. While I have you here, I might as well mention a few other niggles. None of this had a huge impact on my experience, but I wouldn't mind seeing it improved in the sequel. First up is the AI. It's bad. A lot of people suggest this is deliberate to add to the power fantasy I discussed earlier, but I'm not convinced. I can agree the AI wasn't a priority and probably got ignored for time and cost constraints, but I think it's a stretch to say that the bad AI was deliberate. For me, it's an Occam's razor situation. What's more likely, the devs made the AI deliberately bad, or that they simply didn't have the time or money to do better? Regardless, the AI doesn't actually have a huge impact on the power fantasy. The enemies are weak and go down easily. They are no match for your powers and weapons unless you're drastically outnumbered. That's the power fantasy there. You would still dominate enemies even if they had the foresight to flank you or if they had the tiniest amount of peripheral vision. If anything, bad AI detracts from the power fantasy because it feels like borderline cheating. And if the AI is deliberately bad, why are there so many systems in place for you to navigate around enemies or mess with the AI? The maps are full of stealth routes, but you're never given a reason to use them. What's the point in sneaking past enemies when they're so easy to take out and don't look around much? There are bottles everywhere that you can throw to distract enemies, but I didn't use one. I mean, why would I? Enemies already ignore most sounds I make, so I can sneak up on them or past them without needing distractions. Their vision gauge takes so long to fill up, you can charge them down while they stare at you and still get a takedown in before they shoot or go on full alert. Don't get me wrong, this can be fun. I love kicking conveniently placed enemies off ledges, for example. And there is sort of a story reason for them being useless, especially at night, but there's an important difference between stupid and brainless. These enemies are the latter, like zombies with guns basically. For example, if you go to the top of a building, you're practically invincible. They can't do anything against you. So yeah, I'd like the AI to be better, and I don't agree with some of the dismissive and overly defensive comments I've seen on the topic, but it's not a deal breaker for me either. The AI problem could be mitigated a bit with difficulty modes, because Deathloop is painfully easy. There is supposedly adaptive difficulty, but beyond Juliana getting some kind of insane armour at one point, I didn't notice it. In the 15 hours it took to complete, I only lost all 3 lives twice. Once was when I died and the game rewound me on top of a mine, which blew me into a laser explosive and killed me again. This alerted all the enemies nearby, which the game conveniently dumped me in the middle of. I died while still laughing about the previous death. The other time I lost all my lives was when the frame rate tanked, like a literal slideshow. After the first couple of hours, once you have some decent guns, the game simply doesn't put up a fight at all. The visionaries are so easy to kill that if it weren't for the little pop-up in the corner of the screen and the loot, I wouldn't know I'd killed one. I know Deathloop is going for the power fantasy thing, but there comes a point when you are so powerful that the fantasy breaks apart. It reminded me a bit of the first time I ever cheated in a video game. I really wanted to unlock Supersonic in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but my tiny child brain was too useless to get all the emeralds. I bought a magazine just for its cheat book and unlocked Supersonic. It was incredibly exciting to blitz through levels as an indestructible force of nature for maybe 10 minutes. Then the novelty wore off and I stopped playing. That's kind of Deathloop. By the end I was fairly bored and took little satisfaction from the final loop because there was nothing the enemies could do to stop me. I even messed up right at the end and sent the entire party on alert, but I just stood on a roof and sniped what I think was every enemy on the map until I hit the target. It's possible to provide a power fantasy while also providing a challenge. The modern Spider-Man games come to mind. You absolutely kick ass as Spider-Man, but enemies put up a fight and all have their own strengths and weaknesses. The effort you put in to target those weaknesses adds to the power fantasy, it doesn't detract from it. And of course, it offers difficulty options for all skill levels. And yes, Deathloop should offer easier modes as well as harder ones. I'm not the guy to discuss this, but Deathloop has huge accessibility issues that mean many disabled gamers simply can't play it. Check out Steve Saylor's accessibility review if you'd like to hear more about that. Deathloop is a big budget game, and the lack of basic accessibility options is embarrassing. I appreciate that maybe the Microsoft acquisition came too late to make a difference, but for the company that put out the adaptive controller to also put out this is simply unacceptable. Finally, while I like the powers, I do wish we could have more than 3 at a time. One power has to be the revive power, and I'd wager the vast majority use shift as the second. That means you only get to choose one other power. Now there'd need to be difficulty balancing for this of course, but difficulty modes would also help with that. Overall though, Deathloop is a good game that you should play. The sequel could be a great game and I'm already looking forward to it. Alright, if you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel. I do have a Patreon if you want to support the main videos on the channel, not the crappy little ones like this. There should be a big video later in the month. Okay, until next time, cheers.